All right, people. So we're talking about assisting in the salon. Man, every time we bring this topic up, I see it all across IG, all over the place. It sends so many people into a frenzy, right? It's a hot discussion. Assisting. You should be scrubbing toilets. You should be cleaning the floors with a toothbrush. That's what I had to do. That builds character. That builds structure. That teaches you how to be disciplined. All of these words, right? But is it necessary? Is it really necessary? Let's talk about it. All right, so this is my thoughts about being an assistant. And yes, I have been an assistant in two salons before, right? At two different points in my life. So I have two different perspectives about it that I can definitely talk about. I was an assistant as a young, fresh out of school, don't know anything, never worked in a salon, never touched anything, assistant. And I was a assistant that's been at a salon before, worked, knows customer service, has a little bit more skills, had a little bit more life experience, and maybe a little less tolerance. I don't know. That's something to explore. But here's my whole take on it, right? Most of the times you're coming out of school, and I look at it and I equate it to being an artist on a label, right? When you are an artist, and by artist, I'm talking about recording artists. When you're a recording artist, right, you can probably sing, you have a lot of talent, you have a lot of, poise, you may have the look, you may have everything, right? But people don't know if you will sell, right? So record companies, back in the day, I mean, nowadays, I don't think a lot of big labels really take that gamble like they used to, but back in the day, record companies would put money up front, and it was a gamble whether they will have a return on this investment or not. So I equate being an assistant in a salon to the same things. Salons are taking a gamble on you. They don't know right away if you're going to be able to deliver or not. And sometimes, you're coming right out of school, and depending on what school you go to, you may not have the right foundations, or you may not have the right structure, because some schools do not teach you beyond what you need in order to pass the state board. And that's just the truth. Excuse me, let me take a water break. And that's the truth. They don't really teach you beyond that. So yes, salons going in, and sometimes they have a following, and they have this, they have their loyal customers. And so it takes a lot to trust somebody new with their customers, right? A lot of times you go in and you start as a shampoo assistant, or you're shampooing heads if you're lucky. You are washing towels, drying towels, folding towels. You're prepping color trays. You're washing color bowls. You're washing tubes. You're organizing color tubes sometimes. You might end up mixing formulas, it just really depends. Most of the time, I would say not. That's usually when you've been assisting for a little while. You're cutting foils. You're taking coats. What else? What else do you do? Sometimes you're getting champagne, depending on your salon. Yes, some salons do serve you champagne. Well, they used to. This is all pre-COVID talk, okay? So, you're getting drinks, water, champagne, different things like that for the clients. You're sweeping up hair. Sometimes you may be holding sections. All depends. Holding sections of hair while somebody cuts. And I think that's pretty much it, right? These are your main duties as an assistant. These are usually the things that you're doing. Oh, I forgot one important thing, right? You're also doing blow dries. Now, I'll get into that. a little bit later because that has its own thing with it. Yeah, so you may be doing blow dries. You may be doing that. And those are pretty much the duties of an assistant, right? Coming out of school, these things are pretty much commonplace. I mean, if you're in cosmetology school, you probably were doing the same things, give or take, with a few exceptions. But I mean, these are things that you were kind of doing in school already anyway. And another thing I forgot to mention, you're probably bringing models and having education days if you're at one of these bigger salons that offers that. So it's almost like a continuation of school in a way, but not exactly, because it has its nuances that I think can be pitfalls and red flags. So I'm going to talk to you about what it means to be an assistant and what experiences you could possibly encounter and what you should expect, right? And what you should want as an assistant. So right off the bat, I said I equate it to being an artist, right? So an artist is on a label, you have a talent, somebody recognizes it, I'm gonna take you on, I'm gonna train you. So they bring you on and they're training you as you go. Now, a lot of the salons are watch and learn type of thing. And sometimes they'll have structured education days where you bring in a model and they'll have an instructor and then they'll teach you how to do particular cuts until you become familiar with it. Some of them even may have like a test out or something to show that, okay, I trust you with customers, or I trust you with clients, or I trust you to take your own clients. Mind you, at some point, sometimes some salons used to have just a rolling roster of models. I know Sassoon used to do that back in the day. They would have places where you can sign up to be a model. I don't know what the structure are for some of these other salons these days, but I feel, and now we're talking about ideal, right? I feel that as a business, if you are going to take on assistants and you're going to bring in new stylists, that you should have an education program for your stylists. You should have a certain pay structure set up for your stylists, and you should have models set up for your stylists to work on. You should have willing clients that are there. Okay, so now that's twofold, right? That's twofold. Number one, if you're the person that's bringing in your own models and you have to book a model every single week and all that kind of stuff, there's some things that come from that, right? There is some benefit in that. The benefit is, one, you're learning how to recruit your own models, you're recruiting your own people, and they're pretty much going to be consistent and loyal with you, right? So if you decide to move somewhere else, they're probably going to be looking for you. Why? Because you're the person that reached out to them, you're the one that kind of made that connection, and you're the one that's offering the service and they're getting used to you. The hope with that is also, sometimes when salons make you do that, is that you would convert those clients into becoming like full-time paying clients, which may or may not happen. So you're already at a gamble. I feel that the salon should take on the responsibility of bringing in those models, only because then the models will be loyal to the business and not necessarily the stylist. Right, so we're talking twofold here. We're talking from business standpoint, and we're also talking from assistant standpoint. So from business standpoint, having a rolling roster of models that are willing to get haircuts at a discounted price allows you to keep a certain flow coming into the salon, and it also allows for your stylist to get trained. And the people there already know that, they're going to be paired with somebody who's under training, and they know that they're going to be guided. And it also guarantees them that certain price that they're looking for. And once you have somebody that's already available, you're developing a rapport with, clientele that is willing to be sort of like a mannequin, to be trained on. So your stylists are only going to get better, right? But if you don't want to do that, and by theory also, you have the bigger name, you have the history, you have the structure, you have the marketing budget and all that, in theory, you're able to pull in more people than the average person that's just finished with cosmetology school or doesn't quite have a following yet. You're able to pull that in. And if you pull those people in, the people will be more loyal to the business than they are to the stylist. But it's up to you how you want to run your business, so to speak, in that aspect. I just want to give a good, well-rounded perspective of how all of this works. So if you are bringing in models and all of those things like that, that's definitely one of those things that you want to look at. You also have to keep in mind that, like I said, they are taking a gamble on you and they don't know if you could perform or not. So you can't feel bad about that. Now, when it comes to the other duties, such as cleaning, sweeping, all of those other stuff, I don't think that we should get into the habit of talking about that as some kind of prerequisite to becoming a stylist, because it isn't. Cleaning toilets, cleaning bathrooms, cleaning bowls and sinks and all those kinds of things, all of those things are not going to teach you character or are not going to help you to build anything if you don't already have it. In fact, sometimes it can make you even more bitter and resistant, and you continue to perpetuate a cycle where you feel that somebody has to pay these imaginary dues. And it's not really required. Instead, what I would encourage people to do is kind of look at it as just building a sense of community. And one of the businesses that are really good at doing this, I would say, is Trader Joe's. There is no one title. Everybody takes turns doing something, and you're doing it as a collective in order to build a business because you're both working in there. And when you think of it in that mindset and you approach it with that mindset, people are more willing to help out because they know that everybody is doing it and it's not this hierarchy. But what I feel is that a lot of salons, a lot of the bigger name salons, are operating off of a model that's becoming outdated. We're going into a generation that is a little bit more vocal about what they want and need, and they are more so about having a sense of community and having a sense of fulfillment rather than just making tons and tons of money. I think back in the 80s, that was the biggest goal, right? Especially here in America, that type of capitalistic approach to things of, oh, I just want to make money, and I'll accept and tolerate anything. I think those days are slowly fading away, and a lot of people that operated on that relic are finding themselves operating at a deficit. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's just a culture of the time, but it's definitely a different time frame now, and people don't want to thrive. People don't thrive in that environment, and people don't want to be in that environment anymore. It's not enough to have talent these days, because there is multiple people out there that will tell you that, they're not the best hair cutters, but they're the busiest ones, right? And there's some that are the busiest ones that may not have as much of a background, but because they have a nice personality, because they make people feel good, because people feel comfortable being around them, because they make the environment really welcoming, because they give 100% in customer service, because they really care and they're dedicated to their profession and their craft, and they really care about what they're doing, you see that people constantly come back to them. And because people constantly come back to them, they get better and they get better and they get better, and it just grows and builds. And that's how these things work. Oh man, I see that I'm out of battery for a little bit. So I'm gonna change my battery and then I'm gonna come right back and we're gonna pick up where we left off. So that video was recorded about a year ago, and surprisingly I have some new information, new perspectives to add towards being an assistant. So I'll probably continue on with talking about the different things about being an assistant. So stay tuned for part 2.